Life is built on chemical reactions, the cycling of matter, and the flow of energy. Now there's two major reactions here. Hydrolysis reactions break polymer molecules such as polypeptides into their monomer forms, whereas dehydration synthesis takes monomers and joins them into a polymer form. Hydrolysis breaks things down, so it is catabolic. Dehydration synthesis builds things up, so it is anabolic. To break something down means you're going to have to release energy because you broke a bond, so it is exergonic. But to build something up, it's going to require energy, endergonic. Now, the only way I can do that in the human body is by linking these reactions together in a process called energy coupling. So by taking the energy released by hydrolysis and using it to power dehydration synthesis, you have the basic component of metabolism. Now, in summary, you add water to break a bond, you remove water to make a bond, and this applies to all biomolecules in all forms of life. So the Gibbs free energy equation is useful when you're trying to understand the behavior of systems when they're combined. It was developed, or the formula was developed in the 1870s by a scientist who was studying fluid dynamics and thermodynamics, but he called it the available energy. So the Gibbs free energy is the energy associated with a chemical reaction that can be used to do work. It's the sum of the enthalpy and the product of the temperature and the entropy of the system. So the delta G is the amount of free energy, useful energy. H is enthalpy, T is temperature in kelvins, make sure you can convert that from Celsius, and S is the entropy of a system. Thinking about Gibbs, it's sometimes easier to understand it graphically than it is with the formula. Now, please be aware that you do not actually have to be able to use the formula at this point in biology. You'll not really have to do that until AP biology, but you should understand the graphs that I'm about to show you. So, exergonic reactions and endergonic reactions look very different graphically. In exergonic reactions, it goes to a lower energy state. It's exergonic. So the reactants have more energy than the products. The delta G is negative. So cellular respiration, hydrolysis, what have you. If you look at endergonic reactions, the reactants go to a higher energy state in the products. So delta G is positive. So it's endergonic. Energy is needed. Photosynthesis, dehydration synthesis. We're about to talk about ATP, and ATP relies upon the same process to couple the reactions. So the energy released in an exergonic reaction is used to power an endergonic reaction. Life requires a constant supply of energy. Cells use energy that's stored in the bonds of certain biological molecules. And we call that total process metabolism, from the Greek word that means to change. And it's the set of life-sustaining chemical transformations within the cells of living organisms. These steps are enzyme catalyzed. They allow organisms to grow and reproduce. They maintain their structures. They respond to their environment. So basically, you take food in, you take energy molecules in, you break them down through digestion, you capture that energy in a form the cell can use, which is ATP, and then you release the waste energy as heat. Our metabolism is not very efficient. We get maybe 10% of the energy from what we eat, and the rest is released as heat. So ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, is probably the most important biological molecule, and it supplies energy to the cell. So it is a molecular unit of currency. It's a coenzyme that your body is going to use to make intracellular energy transfer possible. Now, when you're actually building an ATP, you start off with an AMP, an adenine monophosphate, or just an RNA nucleotide of adenine. You add that second phosphate group, but it's hard because phosphate groups are extremely negative. Adding a negative to a negative, it's going to repel. Adding the third one is even harder, so it stores energy in a way that's easy to access. So when you're looking at an ATP, you have an adenine nitrogenous group, a ribose sugar, hence it being an RNA, and 3 phosphates. The average human body has about 0.2 moles of ATP, but In your daily life, you need between 100 to 150 moles of ATP per day, which is about your body weight in ATP. This means that each ATP molecule is recycled 500 to 750 times during a single day. ATP cannot be stored, so it's consumed closely following its synthesis. However, a total of about 5 grams of ATP is used by cell processes at any time in the body. Now, it's going to be that energy currency. It's going to be doing this exchange of energy by transferring phosphate groups. Now, any enzyme that is capable of transferring a phosphate group is called a kinase, which you will need to remember for later units. But by transferring that phosphate group back and forth, you're able to exchange 7.3 kilocalories per mole of energy. And that is how life works. Without this basic process of transfer between ADP and ATP and energy in and out and coupling of reactions, life would not be possible.